Hey, what's up, people? Fisher coming at you once again, Sunday night at 9 o'clock. And, pardon me, um, I'm going to be reading not the entirety of chapter 3 of Siddhartha tonight. So we are on page 25 in this book right now. And this chapter is called Gotama. If you can see that, Gotama. Gotama is the name of Buddha, actual Buddha. And he really exists in this book. So the Siddhartha we're watching, he's Siddhartha Gotama, which is where the confusion lies. He is on this path to self-realization and spiritual awakenings and just coming of age and growing into manhood and all of this like really big picture stuff. But he runs into Buddha, the man who is Buddha. And this is the chapter where he actually meets him. And so it's really weird because the entire rest of the book, it's almost like we're seeing the journey of the man who starts Buddhism. But in this chapter, he actually meets the real Buddha. So it's like, it's Siddhartha talking to himself, kind of. But, it doesn't really matter. What's important is that in this chapter, Siddhartha has a huge realization. So up to this point, he realized that his father and the wise men that he lived with in his village, they'd already given him all the knowledge they could. They had taught him everything, and he still was not filled with knowledge. And so he goes and lives with the Samanas, and Govinda goes with him. And they study under the Samanas for some time, and they learn the power of meditation and fasting and all of these other self-denial things. And it's good, but Siddhartha determines after chapter 2 that clearly none of those men have found salvation, have found nirvana, have found the bliss. And so if they haven't achieved it, then they can't teach you how to do it. So they move on, and they go and they find Gotama. And this is different because in this chapter, Govinda and Siddhartha, they find Gotama. He's in the grove of Jetavana, and he is surrounded by monks in yellow robes, and they are all listening to his sermons on the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. If you don't know what those are, you should look them up because they're interesting. And I'm sorry, I was distracted because a literal owl just flew past my window. And how often does that happen in Cascade? Not very often. It's like some Harry Potter stuff going on right now. Anyway, maybe I'm getting accepted to Hogwarts. That'd be pretty sweet. All right, back to what we were doing. Okay, so they're at the grove at Jetavana. They see Gotama, and they can tell everything about him is at peace. His smile is filled with confidence. The way he holds himself, you can just see there's no tension in him. He is so completely at peace that there is no way to say that he has not achieved enlightenment. He's there, man. He has found the bliss. He's living in nirvana. He has moved out of the circle of life, and he is above all things, and he can see everything. And he preaches that life is pain, but you can get through the suffering and alleviate the suffering and end the suffering. And that's kind of like the Four Noble Truths in the Eightfold Path, is how to get away from the pain of life. And his sermon is amazing. It's so good that later that night, Govinda pledges his loyalty to him. And I have actually the page marked. The illustrious one spoke in a soft but firm voice, taught the four main points, taught the Eightfold Path. Clearly and quietly his voice carried to his listeners like a light, like a star in the heavens. And then they say, you have listened well to the teachings. Join us then and walk in bliss. Put an end to your suffering. And so Govinda pledges himself. He steps right up there and he pledges himself to follow Gotama and be a Buddhist monk and work to, achieve bliss through that. And he turns to Siddhartha and says, will you not also follow Gotama? And Siddhartha says, nah, I won't, essentially. And this is Govinda. So he says, Siddhartha, it is not for me to reproach you. You have both listened. We have both listened to the illustrious one. We have both heard his teachings. Govinda has listened to the teachings and has accepted them. But you, my dear friend, will you not also tread the path to salvation? Will you delay and still wait? And Siddhartha says, yeah, no, I'm not going to devote myself to this man. And it's not because he's not amazing. It's not because I disagree with him. I think what he's saying is right. And he says, Govinda, you have always gone a step behind me. Often I have thought, will Govinda ever take a step without me from his own conviction? Now you are a man. You have chosen your path. May you go along it to the end, my friend. May you find salvation. In that moment, Govinda realized that his friend was leaving him, and he began to weep. Siddhartha, he cried. Siddhartha spoke kindly to him. Do not forget, Govinda, that you now belong to Buddha's holy men. You have renounced home and parents. You have renounced origin and property. You have renounced your own will. You have renounced friendship. That is what the teachings preach. That is the way of the illustrious one. That is what you wish yourself. Tomorrow, Govinda, I will leave you. And then they spend the night together, like hanging out and talking and meditating and stuff. And in the morning, Govinda gives Siddhartha a hug, and he goes and he puts on his Buddhist robe and he becomes a Buddhist monk. And then Siddhartha is setting off on his own, but as he's walking through the forest, he actually runs into Gotama. And he has a conversation with him. And he's kind of arrogant. And he says that his opinion, he gives his opinion of Gotama's teachings. And Gotama says, let me warn you, you who are thirsty for knowledge against the thicket of opinions and the conflict of words. Opinions mean nothing. They may be beautiful or ugly, clever or foolish. Anyone can embrace or reject an opinion. The teachings which you have heard, however, is not my opinion. And its goal is not to explain the world to those who are thirsty for knowledge. Its goal is quite different. Its goal is salvation from suffering. That is what Gotama teaches, nothing else. And so Siddhartha says, true, opinions are, I know I gave my opinion, but opinions are meaningless. You're correct. And your teachings are amazing. I have no flaw with them. The only flaw is that you have completely explained the entire world as being a giant circle. But the only thing you don't explain is how you escaped from the circle of life to become enlightened and become in the bliss and in nirvana. And Siddhartha says, you have done so by your own seeking, in your own way, though through meditation, through knowledge, through enlightenment, you have learned nothing from teaching. And so I think, O illustrious one, that nobody finds salvation through teaching. So he's saying, you figured out how to become enlightened on your own. Nobody taught you how. And so that's the path. You have to do it on your own. You have to live your own life and think your own thoughts and have your own experiences. And that's how you become enlightened. So it would be foolish for me to follow you, because that's not how you achieve enlightenment. You don't achieve it by following other people or learning from teachers. You develop a foundation from teachers, but after that, you have to find it on your own. And Gotama kind of like says, whatever, kid, if that's what makes you happy, go on your way. There's no pressure to stay here. I'm obviously paraphrasing. Then Siddhartha, at the very end of this chapter, he says, I have seen one man only, thought Siddhartha, before whom I must lower my eyes. I will never lower my eyes before any other man. No other teachings will attract me, since this man's teachings have not done so. So he's saying Buddhism is perfect in his eyes. And again, remember, I'm not trying to recruit you. But Buddhism is perfect in his eyes. And he agrees with everything except following Buddha. So he doesn't disagree, but he's also not going to stay here and be a peon to the Buddha. Buddha has robbed me, thought Siddhartha. He has robbed me, yet he has given me something of greater value. He has robbed me of my friend whom believed in me and who now believes in him. He was my shadow and is now Gotama's shadow. But he has given me Siddhartha, myself. And so there he's saying, he's given me the knowledge that you cannot achieve enlightenment through others. You must seize it on your own. And so next chapter, he's going to be going on, is the next chapter Awakenings, I think? Yes. Next chapter is Awakenings, where he just stops and he re-examines his whole life. And the fact that he's leaving teachers forever and striking out on his own is kind of like when you guys graduate from high school. You've got your foundational knowledge, you've got everything you need, and now it's up to you to go out and seek the knowledge and the wisdom that you actually need. So that's the end of this chapter. Same as always, I'm going to post an assignment. I need you to pick out one quote that popped out at you. I know I didn't read the whole thing, but you have the PDF document, you have the audiobook, so I want you to listen or read it on your own and find that one quote, that one sentence that stuck out for any reason. And I don't remember if I have one marked for myself. I do. This is the one I have marked for myself. It's a partial right here. So I think, O illustrious one, that nobody finds salvation through teaching. That's my quote. And I will give the exemplar for like how I connect with it and how I think it connects to the larger world on the assignment on Google Classroom. In fact, if you're watching this video right now, then that stuff's probably already posted on Google Classroom. So, all right, short video tonight, about 12 minutes. That's all I've got for you. So find a quote, do some reflecting, do some deep thinking. I hope, if nothing else, there's been at least something so far in these 3 chapters that made you go, huh. That's it. I just want you to do some self-reflection, a little bit of inward looking and see how you actually feel about this stuff. Okay? That's it. Peace, friends. You have a great night. You have a great day. Enjoy the weather because it's supposed to get cold and crappy later this week. So go ahead and get outside, but social distance, wash your hands, hand sanitizer, wear masks in public, all that good stuff. Bro, do not ruin my summer by spreading this out even farther. I need to go to my cottage and I need to have a regular summer. So let's all play together and do this and beat COVID so Fisher can go lay in a hammock looking at a lake, I think is the motivation that we should all have. So that's all I got for you. Peace. Take care. Love you guys.